Hello Saxo fans, welcome back, episode 11. Feel like we've got some good momentum on the project at the moment with the axle coming back last episode and getting everything on. Feel like we've really made some progress forward, so I want to try and keep that going if we can. One thing I said we were going to do, probably last episode, maybe even the episode before that, was brake lines. That's going to be one of the things we get through today. The other one is hopefully getting the fuel tank back in, which should be relatively easy, and I can't do that until the brake lines are done. Sort of a logical step, and then I can get the heat shields and that sort of thing on as well. And then lastly, I want to sort of make a start on prepping the interior for paint. And obviously the roll cage is all out now, hence obviously the lip. But yeah, so first of all on to brake pipes. So let's get on with that, shall we? Okay, here we are. Let's get in shot so you can actually see me. I feel like I'm going to read your story set here. Now, children. But I've been thinking about the brake lines and how I want to do them. Now, on Saxos, there was various iterations of brake setup. Some came with ABS, some didn't. Some came with rear bias valves at the back. Mine didn't. So I've got a 2-port master cylinder with ABS and no rear bias valve. I don't know whether that's a standard setup or it's been messed with in the past. I have no idea. Either way, I want to run it in a configuration that I'll be happy with. So I've decided to, as you might have gathered from previous videos, to run without ABS. The biggest reason for that is on track it can be a bit of a pain, and the sensors are like 90 quid each and I'd need 4 of them, and I'm just not prepared to pay that for something I don't really need. So I'm going to go without. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the master cylinder for a 4-port item from a 406. It's going to be slightly bigger because I've got Brembos on the front from a 406, so it should match up nicely, which means I can then run a single line each to the front calipers, and then what I'm going to do is blank one of the ports, and I'm going to then run a single port to the back, a single line to the back, which I'm going to T-piece to each rear caliper. Thanks to one of the Saxo guys for recommending that. I think it's a good idea. I think it was Sam. So first of all, obviously I've got my brake pipe in a previous video. I showed you that, and I've got a bag full of fittings and all sorts of stuff. The only fittings I don't have is T-pieces, but I can get to a point where I don't need those just yet anyway. So I've never made brake lines before, but you know, it's not rocket science, so I thought I'd just give it a quick go. As always, invest in a little bit of kit, you know, you get to keep it forever then. So I bought a couple of things off Amazon. Tube bender, nice and easy, dead easy to use. And then this little kit that effectively allows you to make the flared ends. So what you get in here is the pipe cutter. I already had one of these, but it's nice to have a spare one. You get this die and tube holder, and I'll show you how this works in a second. The die press here, and then around the outside all the different types of dies for the different size pipes that you have. I think we're running, what size pipe are we using? 3/16 size pipe, which obviously this kit will do. So I've had a little practice and it works very nicely. I followed a guide on YouTube from a guy from America that I just randomly clicked on, and it was a great guide, really quick, really easy, just shows you what to do in layman's terms. So I'll send a link to that. I'll put a link in the description below, and you can either watch me do it and I'll follow his process, or you can look at it yourself. So we'll go through making up one of the flared ends. Now, the first thing we're going to do is make the rear caliper lines. This was one of them. It came off. It's the actual end on the caliper is fine, but getting it out of the end that it joins to the flexible bit of braided pipe was done, so I just cut it. So I'm going to make a new one of those. I've already made a bit of a start at that. Haven't quite finished it yet, but it pretty much follows it. Hasn't got to be exact, obviously, so it's there, it's close enough. So what I need to do now is, before I go too much further and start offering it up to the cars, I'm just going to flare the end. Now, key thing here is to make sure you put your actual pipe fitting on before you flare it, because obviously once it's flared you can't get it on. However, I'm not going to do that because I can just get it on the other end and it will slide all the way through. So I'm going to leave mine off for now because it's just going to get in the way. So I'll show you now how to use this little kit. It's dead good, and you can make your own brake pipes. So let's do that. Okay, step one, I've got my bit of pipe here. This is the end that I want to flare. First of all is just to deburr the inside and put a little chamfer, only needs to be tiny, on the outside. So to deburr, just got the appropriate size drill bit. Just pop it in there, like that, that's nice. And then just a bit of sandpaper all around the edge. There we go, that looks really good. Pleased with that. Okay, next you want to pop your clamp into your vise if you've got one. You don't have to use a vise. Makes it easier if you do. And then pop the end that you want to be flaring into there. So I'm doing the 3/16 size. That's just nipped up for now. So I've got the relevant die, and I want that just to be at the right height, which is just at the same level as the height of the die. So that's a little bit high at the moment. I'll clamp both of those up. Now these need to be tight, because you don't want the pipe being pushed out the bottom. Okay, that's in there. Okay. Next, take my die, just a tiny dab of lube on there. This is actually just chain oil for a push pipe. It lubricates nicely. And we'll pop that on there. And then grab the tool, wind it out, put it over the top of the die, and start winding it in. All the way flush down to the bottom. That's it. Back it out. Do that. Should be able to take your die out then. And you should have a nicely flared end. And then if we pop the nut all the way over on this pipe, there we go. Should hopefully seal correctly. Now I've got some female fittings here, so I'm going to be checking these as I go, so I'm just going to make sure they sit nicely. But it's going to be very difficult to show you on this, but I can see down the end of that and it looks really good. So I'm pleased with that. So that's ready to go into the rear brake caliper. I'll just need to bend up the last little bit that goes over the rear axle, and that's that one done. Job's a good one. Okay. So I think I've got the first pipe done. This is the original pipe that came off the car that's been cut. And you can see, just roughly put it in place, it sort of follows the rear beam up to the back of the car there. Sorry, up to the back of the rear beam there. If I put the new one on, it's broadly similar. Obviously it's difficult to get all the tight angles and things like that that they did from the factory. I'm sure they had much better processes than what we've got here. But you can see it roughly follows the same lines. At the back here, I need to put a little bit of flexi pipe in, which I've got a stainless steel, braided line that will account for the rear beam moving. So I'll do that both sides and then tee off those into the middle to a single line. So I've got to flare that end with a mail for this, and obviously I'll clean this up. And that's this side done. Easy peasy. Right, next bit to make up is a bit that goes over the rear axle and along the car, just in front of the fuel tank. So this bit joins to the rear right caliper, driver's side, and then there's a big long straight stretch from this bit, which I've just cut just to get this curve right, because obviously it's just a straight bit, I don't need the rest of that. So I'm going to imitate this in pipe and chuck a little time lapse in. So let's get going. There we go then, so pretty straightforward process. I like using this impact socket. It's got a nice little gully in there that's about the right size for this pipe. I just find it so much easier, and you get slightly tighter curves than what you can using the tool. Just find it a little bit quicker as well. Bear in mind, this only needs to be broadly similar. This pipe obviously has got a little bit of flex in it, so I can just tweak it when it's underneath the car. So you can see it roughly follows those same lines. So this last little bit I've just left now because this pipe is actually bent when I've taken it off, so I just want to be careful not to overbend the new pipe. But that I'm happy with. So I'm going to offer that up now and just see how long I have to keep this bit, and then I'll make the cut, because obviously I'm going to put a join up here anyway. So let's go and see what it looks like on the car. Okay, right, I'm going to attempt to show you this on the camera. It's difficult to do this, but so you can see it comes out of the caliper, follows the rear trailing arm there, up here, goes over the top of the rear beam, and then comes to this end of the flexi braided pipe, into this little bracket, which I'll clamp down properly, and then does this little loop to avoid hitting the arm there, and then goes up and along to the chassis beam here, and these little holes here are where the little clips will go to hold the brake pipe in. So what I need to do now is go and put a nice flared end on this and cut the nice long piece to a suitable length. Okay, so I've done that for both sides now. So this central pipe here runs across. I've got this little T-piece here, which is obviously going to go towards the front, and then from there it joins down to the other brake caliper. So what I've got to do now is join this side to the front. So I'm going to use the existing bit of pipe, which I've cut off to make it a bit easier to handle. And obviously it's going to go in all the existing clips and follow all the existing bodywork and the way it went. But rather than two pipes, one to each caliper, I've got one to T-piece. So I'm going to make a replica, one of these, and route it to the front. There we go then. So that's the T-piece now joined to a section that will go to the front of the car, which is this pipe here. I've left it just on an open end at the moment. There is actually normally a join further down the car, but for me in the future, potentially might run a hydraulic handbrake, and I thought maybe it could be a good place to tee into. So I've left the fitting over there as a potential tee-in point in the future. But all this bit up here is done. this T-piece, it's all clipped in, nice and secure, nothing clashes. Really happy with that. So the next job is to get the fuel tank in. I'm going to tackle the interior next. I've done obviously the rear third underneath and the middle third, and obviously the front third is suspension and engine gearbox stuff, and that's obviously by far the most complex bit, so I'm going to leave that bit until all the simple stuff, effectively the inside, is done, because obviously on the inside there's basically nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip it down, and I'm going to use the same undersill, the Raptor bed liner, but in black on the inside. It's such a good hard wearing stuff that I don't think, things like popping some kit or some tools or something in the back, when you go to a track day, is going to damage it. And obviously it's hard wearing under your feet as well. And I'll put some non-slip sticky pads and stuff down anyway. But the first thing really is to get rid of what's in here, because whoever had this car before sprayed it with some sort of black, I don't know, it's almost, it's paint I suppose, but yeah, it looks nasty anyway. I'll show you if you can see, but it should sort of look almost a bit like the underside did, that sort of off creamy grey colour. So I need to get all this off. I had a little practice patch here to see what it looked like underneath, and it's really good metal, so I'm going to whip all this off, get it in primer, and and then hit it with a bed liner, which I still need to order. So let's start. Okay, you can see how long this is going to take. I want to get it all off because it's really chipping away, it's loose anyway. So I'm going to carry on, and I'll come back when I've made significant progress.
few moments later.